Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our amazing stories. I've always believed that shelter animals have the most incredible stories to tell. What I didn't expect was to stumble upon a mystery that would captivate an entire town and ultimately save a life. It all started during one of my regular visits to the local animal shelter. I'd been going there for weeks, hoping to find the perfect furry companion to bring home. The familiar smell of kibble and the sound of happy barking always made me smile, but on this particular afternoon, something caught my attention that would change everything. There, in a cage near the back, sat a beautiful black and white cat. What made him special wasn't his striking coat or his bright green eyes. It was what he was doing with his paws. Every time someone approached his cage, this cat would start making these deliberate rhythmic movements with his front paws. It wasn't random scratching or playful batting. These were precise, almost choreographed gestures. I watched for several minutes, mesmerized. The pattern was always the same. Tap, tap, pause. Tap, 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 pause. Tap, pause, tap. It was like he was trying to tell us something, but what? That's when I met Mark, a volunteer who'd been working at the shelter for over 2 years. Mark was the kind of guy who noticed everything, from which dogs needed extra attention to which cats preferred their food at room temperature. If anyone would understand this cat's behavior, it would be him. "Hey, have you seen what this cat does?" I asked Mark, pointing toward the black and white performer. Mark approached the cage, and immediately the cat began his routine. But instead of smiling like I expected, Mark's face went pale. "How long has he been doing this?" Mark asked, his voice suddenly tense. "Every time I visited this week," I replied. "Why? What's wrong?" Mark didn't answer right away. He just stood there, watching the cat's paws move in that same deliberate pattern, his expression growing more troubled by the second. From that day forward, Mark became obsessed with understanding the cat's behavior. He started carrying a small notebook, carefully documenting every movement, every pattern, every detail. I found myself visiting the shelter more frequently too, drawn by the mystery and Mark's growing concern. "Look at this," Mark said one afternoon, showing me pages of notes. "It's always the same sequence. 3 short taps, pause, 3 short taps, pause, 3 long taps, pause. Then it repeats. Something about that pattern nagged at me, but I couldn't place it." Word about our mysterious cat began to spread. Other visitors started gathering around his cage, offering their own theories. Mrs. Henderson, a regular volunteer, thought he was asking for treats. Tom, a teenager who helped clean the kennels, was convinced the cat was dancing. Even Dr. Sarah, the shelter's veterinarian, stopped by to observe, though she admitted she'd never seen anything quite like it. But Mark wasn't satisfied with simple explanations. There was something in his gut telling him this was bigger than a quirky cat seeking attention. I decided to film the cat's performance and share it online. Within hours, the video had hundreds of views. By the next day, thousands. Comments poured in from around the world, each person offering their own interpretation of the mysterious paw signals. "Clearly he's asking for belly rubs," one commenter wrote. Another suggested, "This cat is obviously a reincarnated pianist." But among the jokes and lighthearted theories, a few comments stood out. "Those movements look familiar," wrote a user named Patricia K. "I've seen something similar in emergency response training." That comment made Mark's eyes light up. "Emergency response?" he muttered, furiously scribbling in his notebook. 3 weeks into our investigation, everything changed. Mark had been comparing the cat's movements to various forms of communication: sign language, Morse code, even semaphore flags. Nothing quite fit until he stumbled across something that made his blood run cold. "I need you to come to the shelter right now." Mark's voice was urgent when he called me that evening. "I think I know what the cat is trying to tell us." When I arrived, Mark was pacing in front of the cat's cage, his notebook open to a page covered in frantic scribbles. The cat, as if sensing the importance of the moment, was performing his routine with even more intensity than usual. "It's SOS," Mark said quietly. 3 short, 3 short, 3 long. It's Morse code for SOS." The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't a playful cat looking for attention. This was a distress signal. Mark immediately called the police. Within an hour, Officer Daniels arrived at the shelter. A 20-year veteran with graying temples and kind eyes, Officer Daniels listened patiently as Mark explained our discovery. "You're telling me this cat is signaling SOS?" Officer Daniels asked, watching the feline performer with new interest. "Every single day, same pattern, same intensity," Mark confirmed. "This isn't random behavior. Someone taught him this." Officer Daniels observed the cat for nearly an hour, documenting the behavior with his own video equipment. As the implications sank in, his expression grew increasingly grave. "We need to check recent missing person reports in the area," he said finally. "If someone trained this cat to signal for help, there might be a very good reason why." The next few days turned the shelter into an unofficial command center. Officer Daniels and his team combed through missing person files, looking for any connection to a black and white cat. Mark's detailed notes proved invaluable, providing timestamps and behavioral patterns that helped narrow down the timeline. The break came when Officer Daniels discovered a report filed 6 months earlier. Emily Rodriguez, a 34-year-old teacher, had disappeared from her apartment complex just 2 miles from the shelter. Her family mentioned she had recently adopted a black and white cat named Morse. "Morse," Mark whispered when Officer Daniels shared the information. "She named him Morse." Emily's sister Maria rushed to the shelter that evening. The moment she saw the cat, tears streamed down her face. "That's him," she sobbed. "That's Emily's cat." Through her tears, Maria explained that Emily had been paranoid about her ex-boyfriend, who had been stalking her for months. She'd been so afraid that she'd taught Morse to signal SOS just in case something happened to her. "She always said if anything happened to her, Morse would try to get help," Maria whispered, gently touching the cage. "I thought she was being overly dramatic." With this new information, Officer Daniels launched a full investigation into Emily's disappearance. The ex-boyfriend, Derek Matthews, became the prime suspect. Within 48 hours, they had tracked him to a remote cabin 30 miles outside of town. What happened next was the most intense few hours any of us had ever experienced. A SWAT team surrounded the cabin while negotiators tried to make contact. Mark and I waited at the shelter with Maria, all of us praying that Emily was still alive. At 3:47 a.m., Officer Daniels called with news that made us all break down in tears. Emily Rodriguez had been found alive. She was weak, traumatized, but alive. Derek Matthews was in custody, and Emily was being rushed to the hospital. The first thing Emily asked about when she was stable enough to speak was her cat. Did anyone understand?" she whispered. When Officer Daniels told her that Morse had been signaling SOS for months and that his persistence had led to her rescue, Emily broke down sobbing. "He's the smartest cat in the world," she cried. 2 weeks later, Emily was strong enough to visit the shelter. The reunion between her and Morse was something I'll never forget. The moment she appeared, Morse stopped his SOS signals and began purring louder than I'd ever heard a cat purr. "You did it, baby," Emily whispered, cradling Morse in her arms. "You brought me home." Emily thanked Mark and me, along with everyone at the shelter who had taken Morse's message seriously. She explained that during her captivity, she had clung to the hope that Morse would somehow find a way to get help. "I spent hours training him before I was taken," she said. "I never thought he'd actually remember, let alone find a way to use it." Today, Morse is back home with Emily, who has since moved to a safer location with better security. The story of the cat who saved his owner's life made national news, inspiring pet owners everywhere and highlighting the incredible bond between humans and animals. Mark still volunteers at the shelter, but he pays even closer attention to animal behavior now. "You never know what they're trying to tell us," he says. As for me, I did eventually adopt a cat from the shelter, an orange tabby named Rusty, who thankfully only signals when he wants dinner. But I'll never forget Morse, and the reminder that sometimes the most important messages come from the most unexpected messengers. This story taught all of us that animals are far more intelligent and intuitive than we often give them credit for. Morse didn't just remember his training. He understood that his human needed help, and he never gave up trying to communicate that message. The next time you see an animal behaving in an unusual way, take a moment to really observe. You might just be witnessing something extraordinary. Thank you so much for watching this incredible true story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing stories, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our latest content. What's the most incredible animal story you've ever heard? Let us know in the comments below.